Greetings and shalom. Welcome to Truth and Testimony, the broadcast. I am Adrian Scott, and I have some shekels for your thoughts. Or here's shekels I'll give you for my thoughts. How about we do that? I really felt it in myself that this is a little extra video that I just needed to make. I try to keep myself abreast of, the goings on in the world nowadays. And it can be very disheartening and rather discouraging. There's just so much negativity, and you can see the flagrant, deliberate attack on the authority of God and of God's word and God's people. The family unit is being taken apart, the emasculation of men, the hypersexualization of women. It's all just being run amok. And I won't even get into the stuff we're doing to our children nowadays when they are growing up in a complete family. But as discouraging as it is, we also know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And we just need to hang in there. We need to stay true to His Word and keep ourselves, as I've said it before, keep ourselves in the will of God, because there's just nowhere safer to be. And I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the attacks on, like I've been covering the topic of creation and evolution and, old Earth versus young Earth. And to me, the way I see all of this, they are all attacks on the authority of God and His Word. And if there's one thing that I firmly hold to be true, it's that there is an adversary, Hasatan. He is out there, and he is very busy at the moment. And one thing that I would say is he cannot attack God. And I think I've said this before, he can't attack God, but he could certainly go after that which is made in God's image. And there's the attack. Now, what will he do? He will do anything to take us out of the will of God, to get us away from His Word. Did God say, think back to Adam and Eve in the garden, did He really say that? Right out of the gate, before anything else happens, He has man questioning God's authority. And then He tempts them furthermore with, you too can be like gods. And we have the rise of humanism and evolution and right now, in our world, internationally, certainly, in the cultures I'm familiar with, which really traditionally had their roots based in Christianity, they're not Christian anymore. And you can just see things are falling apart and getting worse, and this is a fulfillment of God's word. At one point, the Messiah is going to return, He's going to reign, and the heaven and earth will be remade and everything will be perfect at that point. But until then, this downward spiral is going to continue going on. And a large part of that is, this is something that I read a while ago, and I'm actually going to read it for you now. But it makes a comment about how we're just running things on the wrong fuel. And that'll make sense in a minute. So what I'm going to be reading from is a amazing Christian gentleman and author by the name, I'm sure most of us will have heard of him, of C.S. Lewis. In this particular case, it is specifically from a book called Mere Christianity. But this book here, this is the complete C.S. Lewis signature classics. Highly recommend it. It has Mere Christianity in it, the Screw Tape Letters, The Great Divorce, The Problem of Pain, Miracles, A Grief Observed, and The Abolition of Man. These are all different Christian writings by C.S. Lewis. To me, the penultimate of them all is Mere Christianity, and in fact, that's where we're going to be reading from. So let me read this, and then I have a few points that I would make to sum it up. And there's a little bit here, so bear with me. because we're setting a bit of a stage of what's transpiring here. God created things which had free will. That means creatures which can either go wrong or right. Some people think they can imagine a creature which was free but had no possibility of going wrong. I cannot. If a thing is free to be good, it is also free to be bad. And free will is what has made evil possible. Why then did God give them free will? Because free will, though it makes evil possible, is also the only thing that makes possible any love or goodness or joy worth having. A world of automata, of creatures that worked like machines, would hardly be worth creating. The happiness which God designs for his higher creatures is the happiness of being freely, voluntarily united to him and to each other in an ecstasy of love and delight, compared with which the most rapturous love between a man and a woman on this earth is mere milk and water. And for that, they must be free. Of course, God knew what would happen if they used their freedom the wrong way. Apparently, he thought it worth the risk. Perhaps we feel inclined to disagree with him. But there is a difficulty about disagreeing with God. He is the source from which all your reasoning power comes. You could not be right and he wrong any more than a stream can rise higher than its source. When you are arguing against him, you are arguing against the very power that makes you able to argue at all. It is like cutting off the branch you are sitting on. If God thinks this state of war in the universe a price worth paying for free will, that is, for making a live world in which creatures can do real good or harm, and something of real importance can happen, instead of a toy world which only moves when he pulls the strings, then we may take it that it is worth paying. When we have understood about free will, we shall see how silly it is to ask, as somebody once asked me, why did God make a creature of such rotten stuff that it went wrong? The better stuff a creature is made of, the cleverer and stronger and freer it is, then the better it will be if it goes right. But also, the worse it will be if it goes wrong. A cow cannot be very good or very bad. A dog can be both better and worse. A child better and worse still. An ordinary man still more so. A man of genius still more so. A superhuman spirit best or worst of all. How did the dark power go wrong? Here, no doubt, we ask a question to which human beings cannot give an answer with any certainty. A reasonable and traditional guess, based on our own experiences of going wrong, can, however, be offered. The moment you have a self at all, there is a possibility of putting yourself first, wanting to be the center, wanting to be God, in fact. That was the sin of Satan. And that was the sin he taught the human race. Some people think that the fall of man had something to do with sex, but that is a mistake. The story in the book of Genesis rather suggests that some corruption in our sexual nature followed the fall and was its result, not its cause. What Satan put into the heads of our remote ancestors was the idea that they could be like gods, could set up on their own as if they had created themselves, be their own masters, invent some sort of happiness for themselves outside God, apart from God. And out of that hopeless attempt has come nearly all that we call human history. Money, poverty, ambition, war, prostitution, classes, empires, slavery. The long, terrible story of man trying to find something other than God, which will make him happy. The reason why it can never succeed is this: God made us, invented us, as a man invents an engine. A car is made to run on petrol, and it would not run properly on anything else. Now, God designed the human machine to run on himself. He himself is the fuel our spirits were designed to burn, or the food our spirits were designed to feed on. There is no other. That is why it is just no good asking God to make us happy in our own way without bothering about religion. God cannot give us a happiness and peace apart from himself, because it is not there. There is no such thing. That is the key to history. Terrific energy is expended, civilizations are built up, excellent institutions devised. But each time, something goes wrong. Some fatal flaw always brings the selfish and cruel people to the top, and it all slides back into misery and ruin. In fact, the machine conks. It seems to start up all right and runs a few yards, and then it breaks down. They are trying to run it on the wrong juice. That is what Satan has done to us humans. So here we are in this world with any number of things that you can think of, trying to use them to fill the hole that is in ourselves that needs to be filled by God, that in fact can only be filled by God. And when we use these things and they don't work, then we just keep ramping it up. And so we see the craziness, the extremes that these things are going to. It is man's desperate attempt to make it work, to make that fuel other than God try to work. It's never going to. It can't. And that's when I see everything happening in the world, I think there are moments that I feel angry. There are moments that I feel hopeless. But I try to remember that God is in control. I heard somebody say one time, nothing has ever occurred to God. Things may occur to us all the time, but nothing has ever occurred to God. You don't surprise him. It's like, oh, I didn't see that one coming. No, it doesn't work like that. He knew, and he knows. He is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He had a plan then, he has a plan now. And I do remind myself of that to keep myself going. But there are still those moments, and you really have to fight back that depression and, like I said, anger. But I think what I feel the most, anytime I turn on the TV and I look at these things or I catch the news headlines, is I just feel profoundly sad that we have done this. We have allowed this to happen. We have done this to God's creation. We have chosen. This is what we chose collectively. That's a tough one to swallow, especially when you see it escalating and ramping up the way that it is. And we know where it's heading. Anyone that reads the Bible knows where it's going. It can only end in one conclusion. And again, there is a light at the end of that. There is hope there. There is going to come a time where there's actually going to be truth and justice. That it's coming. That it is going to be there and will finally be corrected and start running this thing on the right juice, on the right fuel. So until then, if you're ever feeling down and you think of, the words of C.S. Lewis here in his Mere Christianity, that all is not lost. There is always hope. What did the Messiah say? He said, with man, I'm paraphrasing here, but with man it's not possible, but with God all things are possible. And we can absolutely take comfort in that. And on that note, I will leave you. I wish blessings to all of you. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Please like, share, subscribe. All those things, they absolutely do help. They encourage us to keep doing what we're doing. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Shalom.